We are live on X, broadcasting live from an undisclosed location on X. We love X. X has been showing us a lot of respect lately. Chris and I just did a live stream earlier, and a lot of respect, like 50 viewers going live. So hopefully we get
That's great.
similar. This is for mine and Chris's other channel, the Chris and Dan Show, and we talk about everything like non-clinical research. So business. I mean, we have other interests. Real estate's a big one. We have our resident in chief of real estate, Joey Finro. He's a realtor.
There we go.
Well, he's also a business partner of ours. We do some
That's
investments
right.
with him. And we always just talk market, talk shop. True fans of Chris and Dan show know who he is. He's most famous for not liking Nightwish and then getting like blasted
Well, it
by
wasn't that he didn't
Nightwish
like him;
Army.
he had never heard of him.
Yeah, but the way he reacted was also like very.
Oh, okay.
They did
I've
not
had like
appreciate
people
that
still
reaction.
call me because of that.
Probably got a few listings out of it. So so look, the first thing I'm gonna do is share the story that's top of mind for everyone, and it's real estate lawsuit settlement upends decades-long policies that help set agent commissions. This is from the AP. So, a powerful real estate trade group, which is the National Association of Realtors, it's like the only real estate trade group really, agreed to
Yep.
pay 418 million to compensate home sellers across the U.S. Multiple lawsuits against the NAR and several major brokerages argued that the trade group's rules governing homes listed for sale on its MLS unfairly propped up agent commission. The rules also incentivize agents representing buyers to avoid showing their clients' listings where the seller's broker was offering a lower commission to the buyer's agent. As part of the settlement, NAR agreed to no longer require a broker advertising a home for sale on MLS to offer any upfront compensation to a buyer's agent. The rule change leaves it open for individual home sellers to negotiate such offers with a buyer's agent outside of the MLS, though the home seller's broker has to disclose any such compensation arrangements. The trade group also agreed to require agents or others working with the home buyer to enter into a written agreement with them that is meant to ensure home buyers know what's going on with their agent as far as what they're going to charge. The rule changes are set to go into effect in mid July, represent a major change to the way real estate agents have operated. Currently, agents working with a buyer and seller typically split a commission of around 6%. That's all paid by the seller. This is going to be, I mean, and then it just goes into more detail. So, not to bore
Yeah.
people, but Joey, what do you think about this, man? I mean, this is your
Great
bread
times in
and
real
butter,
estate.
man. Great times ahead for.
The future looks bright.
I mean, you're the one who should
Yeah.
comment on this, like
Okay.
99%, because I'm a former realtor. I've dabbled, and
Right.
we do investments together. But
Yeah.
this is, I think, a major thing. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, number one, I mean, yeah, real estate since COVID, like a lot of industries has been hit, pretty hard, and especially with interest rates, been up, for to 7% for the last 2 years. That's had a lot of negative impact on realtors and just people in real estate overall, real estate investors, home buyers and home sellers, and realtors and lenders, and all the other service providers in there. So this is like another, negative kind of hit, if you will, that goes along with that. Well, I have to say there is they have done their job getting eyeballs on this. I mean, if you look up, at least on my Instagram and all the news feeds I see on like investing and everything, even if it's non-real estate, is showing, that this, has a huge major impact on the real estate market. And so what I'll go over is like I'll focus, what I think is what's going to happen, and then like what it actually means. So our
Yeah.
in-house attorney, Michael Wooten, who we recently, our whole office just went through this. So the there's really only two things that have changed. Number one, that this lawsuit says is that on the MLS, a listing agent can't disclose a compensation to the buyer agent in a specific spot. So there's one spot called buyer agent
Mm,
compensation. In
mhm.
that location on the MLS, this is for realtors, nothing can be there anymore. They're actually like deleting that. So
Okay.
there's no commission there. And then number two, they are, I think I've heard them say requiring, which it's kind of interesting how they're requiring this, but NAR, National Association of Realtors, are also requiring that buyers sign a buyer broker agreement, which is almost like a listing agreement to sell your house, but now you have an agreement with your agent that's a buyer agent
On the buyer
to,
side.
yeah, exactly, to work with them exclusively. Like you can't just be open. Those are really the only two things that have changed. And so
Mm,
nothing like buyer agents are actually still going to be compensated because there's another box. So it's just, I feel like to talk about another controversial topic, AR-15s in California, they're they're legal, but they have put certain restrictions on the AR-15 today that
mhm.
make it annoying to use, but you
Yeah,
can still buy one. So similar to in a sense, similar to here, buyers aren't going to be paying as of right now the buyer agent commission, because what's going to happen is a seller is going to credit the buyer that 2 or 3%, between 2 and 3%, to pay for the buyer side commission. They just can't advertise in the specific spot on the MLS that says commission. They can't put anything there,
I
but they
see.
can write in, buyer. They have to call it something else, and then you can write in a percentage. You actually can. So it's
But
just it's go,
wouldn't the
yes, go ahead.
argument be that a lot of listing agents now are going to use this and say, "Hey, we're not paying buyers agents anything anymore."
No, because you could do that already. You a seller in so Chris, I can't hear you if you're trying to talk. A seller right now is not obligated to pay, at least in California, is not obligated to pay a buyer side commission. It's a volunteer. You're volunteering to
Mm,
do that. The reason why a listing agent is going to still say, "Hey, nothing has really changed. We still need to offer something," because they want to sell the gosh dang house.
Yeah,
A very a
why would
very low.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, why would a seller's agent even show the house if, unless of course their client says demands
Yeah.
to see the house, why would they offer to show them the house unless they're gonna make money off of it? Here, I just do this for free?
Well, that, and only about 10, maybe 10% of homes that are sold don't have the buyer went directly to the listing agent. It's still a
mhm.
very, very low percentage. Most buyers want to have their own representation. So if a seller chose, just like even before this lawsuit, if they chose not to offer a compensation, they're going to sell for much less. They're going to be on the market way longer, and it's just going to be a very frustrating process. The large majority of buyers want their own representation. Just like if you were in a lawsuit, let's say you and Chris were in a lawsuit, and I'm the one attorney. You guys both wouldn't hire me because it's a better deal, right? You would each want your own Joey, like how I did that.
Right.
You want your own representation, just so that both of your needs and your interests are protected. Again, buying a house and selling a house, it's a very, especially today, it's a
But
very
you can
expensive
still
thing.
have the same agent represent both
You
buyer
can,
and
just
seller.
like you could before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. So someone could still go directly to the listing agent. Where this lawsuit, I think, does have some credibility is because if you think of it, there is a slight conflict of interest, because as seller, so Dan, you're selling your house to Chris, but you're paying both of the realtor commission.
Mhm.
There's a slight conflict because you're paying the realtor that's negotiating against you. So it is a slight it's kind of weird. It's like you would
Mhm.
to pay both of the attorneys, and I guess sometimes that happens when you lose.
Right.
But it's weird, right? It's kind of like but that's just kind of how it is in real estate because a buyer, it's a little bit
I
unreasonable
see. I
for
see.
them to pay the commissions too because they're paying the down payment and the closing costs and then any alterations to the
But
home
is there
plus
any new form that a seller will have to sell now sign now, like because of this?
from my knowledge, no.
No, okay. Just the buyer with a new listing agreement.
Yeah, and that agreement has been around, but now they're saying that they require it.
It's a must, yeah.
Yeah, but the other interesting part of this, and then I can stop after this. The other interesting part is I'm a little skeptical of like how this came up because really nothing is changing after this. Really like
Well,
nothing is
just like a
changing.
small area on the MLS where that ever viewable to the public, or was that just
So this
agents
is what
saw
I'm
it?
getting at.
Yeah.
Just recently, Zillow and Redfin were and this has never happened before, but I think within the last like 2 years, I started to see the commission offering to the buyer agent publicly advertise on Zillow and Redfin. That has never happened before. Only realtors on the MLS could see that. That was not public information.
I see.
And so now it's interesting that now Zillow and Redfin, because of this lawsuit, can't show that. So it's like, well, whose interest or because I almost feel like that's like helping us out, right? Like the public doesn't necessarily, is not it's not being forced on what our commission is, right? It's
Right.
just we've always worked that out with the seller. We've always worked that
Do
out.
you think that's gonna drop commissions though? Like even for the listing side? Because now a buyer, let's say a savvy seller, right, says, "Hey Joe, um, I since you don't have to this or since you have to disclose, I guess, what you're giving the buyer's agent, right? How about we just do like 4% and you just give them like one and I'll pay you three." Or do you think that's gonna happen more?
It could. I don't think so because a good listing agent, they want their listing shown because the more times you show it, the more people that get in there, likely the more offers you're going to have and the quicker you're going to sell and the more
Hmm.
higher offers you're going to have for your client. That's our job, right? Get the most
Hmm.
amount of offers, the highest possible net and terms for your client in the least amount of time. So I don't think that's going to happen because we still want that. That's not going to change. And a savvy seller, I mean, if because you read and likely all sellers in the next couple months have read an article like this that says, oh, buyer agent,
Yeah.
if you actually like if you want to have 90% visibility on the market, you're going to pay that 2% to the buyer side, right? Or 2.5 or 3,
Do you think
whatever that is.
Zillow and Redfin are disrupting this at all?
I'm sure they're for this lawsuit
Mm,
because really anything against realtors is in their best benefit,
it's in their
right?
like how
Um,
far are we from like a buyer saying, because like I mean Chris is in the process now, maybe, and or whenever we are as investors, right? We go to Zillow and then
right.
we send that link to an agent.
Us.
But if
Yeah.
we don't have an agent, we
Yes.
just call that listing agent and say, "Hey, I'm interested," right?
Yeah.
And then
You
they
can.
have to disclose, "Hey, I'm representing the seller. Do you have an agent?" No, I don't. Okay, well, do you want me to be an agent? No, I'm just want to do it myself. You know, like, do you think there's gonna be a time where that's possible?
I guess anything is possible, but you wouldn't be saving money by doing that. You would be
Mm,
basically doing the work and if you're going against me, I'm going to take advantage of you.
right.
So
True, because the
you'll
buyer
likely get
doesn't save money. The
right.
buyer doesn't actually pay the
Yeah.
realtor. It's the seller really that pays both. So
Yeah.
I
So
guess
if the
that won't
buyer's not
displace
really
that.
saving any money
Yeah.
and you're going to try to do all this work and you have to be legally
Right.
responsible to like interpret all this documentation, like nobody would really actually feasibly do that. It's a waste of time and I'm likely going to get
Hmm.
hosed in some fashion. So
So maybe it's not a
it's
big deal after. I mean, I'm trying to think of how this is like, because the media is making this like
I
sounding
know,
alarming.
I know, dude. It looks like death to realtors, and
So
if
the sellers are
anything,
the ones getting screwed, more or less, because they're paying both. They're paying the buyer's commission, like you said,
But
and
yeah,
their
but
own
they
it's
always
always
have.
been that.
They
Yeah,
always have, but it
yeah.
doesn't mean it's like always gonna be either, right?
True.
So if
No, that's
someone gets
true.
pissed, it's gonna be them, not the buyers, because the buyers aren't paying shit anyways.
I think it's yet to be determined who's going to get screwed. Um,
Yeah.
it's yet to be determined. Eventually, it could be the buyer, because potentially there could be laws in 5 or 10 years that says, okay, there's zero compensation. So whether it's a credit or whether it's a
Hmm.
potentially that could happen. But that would kill. Like, think of how unaffordable and how hard it is to buy a house now for the average Joe.
Yeah.
Even actually,
It's
even for the
impossible.
professional,
Even
you
the
now you add
non-average
on the
Joe.
realtor commission.
Yeah.
That's just not
Yeah.
gonna, and even if let's just say the buyer is forced to work directly with the listing agent, dude,
Yeah.
that's a huge conflict of interest. I mean, you're gonna get hosed, and there's other times, like I was thinking about this, like, okay, because I know real estate, it's in its own industry, right? And then sometimes there's others, like norms. Well, like your insurance agent or your financial planner, they get compensated. They're representing you, but they're also kind of representing the company that they're getting compensated from the company that you're buying and investing. So it's like this kind of has happened before in other industries.
Hmm.
Nobody's suing that stuff because the financial company is paying the insurance agent, right? That hasn't happened yet, but it makes me guess, well, because of stuff like this, could that, arise in the future?
Right.
But right now, to answer your question, I don't necessarily think anything too much has changed as of now.
But because of the hefty fines, I read that Keller Williams was like one of the big ones.
Yeah,
They got hit with like 70 million of that
yeah,
400 something.
that's right. Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know
Which
what
I'm interested. I'm like, man, why? Like, I
what were the
don't
fines
know.
actually about though? Like just
I know. I don't know. And Gary Keller, he's not a pushover by any means.
hmm.
So he's not someone that, okay, I'll just pay it. He's not that type of
Is he
guy,
still running the company or
Yeah, yeah. Um, but if anything, I think less realtors are going to get in the business. So it actually might help me,
but
right? Less
why though?
competition.
Like if nothing changes, it should just be the same. I mean, the market's already getting rid of a lot of the realtors who
Yeah, that's
can't do
true.
their job. Do you think this pushes more out or
I
not
think
really?
I think so because it's just another negative news.
Mm,
And it's just like, it's just something that, okay, I don't want to deal with any other, I
yeah.
don't want to have to worry about getting paid on half of my deals, right? Because most realtors do both listing
Yeah.
and buyers.
Yeah.
So I think if you're new or considering getting in,
Yeah.
and then you see just all this news all over online, you might just
Yeah.
say, okay, screw this. I might go to something else.
The thing that worries me for realtors, I know you're a realtor. The thing that
Yeah,
worries me about the future of realtors is technology has a way of displacing the middleman, no matter what
it does.
industry. Like history just shows that it's not kind to middlemen. I mean, some industries hold on for longer, but do you think ultimately like the writing's on the wall for all realtors? Like, and this is just like maybe the first crack in the surface?
You know, I so I think that a lot would maybe in like a lot of years. I don't
Yeah.
think in the next couple of decades, just
Mhm.
because it's there is a lot for good realtors. Now if you barely do any deals and you have your real estate license on the side, yeah, you're dead to you. You're not going to survive any of this stuff.
Hmm.
um but actually technology has made my life a lot easier with being a
Yeah.
realtor, and also it's made my clients, looking at homes and all of that kind of stuff, much easier. um but I just think it's going to be just knowing all the nuances in real estate and buying in the legality and all this or that, just like there's a bunch of like a lot of details in a lawsuit. I think that when that stuff can be all online and you don't need an attorney, it
Yeah.
might be realtors and attorneys, then but it's buying and
CPAs.
selling it.
CPAs are also,
Yeah, well,
it's like,
you can file your taxes online, and I've done that before. And dude, it was a pain in the ass for me.
hmm,
And this
hmm,
was like, years ago.
yeah,
And that was only for $350 or something to
yeah, yeah.
save to do
It's a lot of,
yourself.
I think, what you're ultimately paying, like, I guess a realtor. Now, this is why it's so important to get a good one, because it's very easy for a realtor to just not actually work and
Yeah, you're
get
right.
you what's best for them and not necessarily you.
That's
But
true.
like, and you can't really, yeah, I mean, you can hide, I think you can hide more as a realtor, but like a CPA, you'll know as a client, like, hey, I'm paying you for the interpretive, like creative aspects of
You got it, man.
figuring out what to do. Um, I guess same thing with a realtor, but it's very easy for, I think a CPA can hide less than a realtor because it shows in the bottom line. Whereas with a realtor, you're like, well, you got a
Yeah,
house, and you don't
sure.
really know like how you get screwed, I guess, until later, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind of
right.
ambiguous who's to blame.
Right. It's not like at the very bottom, this is how much taxes you're saving or how much taxes
Yeah,
you owe.
yeah,
Yeah. No, generally, it's kind of after the fact, after you've gone through the inspections and stuff like that. But I mean, I would agree that if there's a realtor that doesn't know what they're doing, you're better off to do it
yeah.
yourself. I,
You're
I,
right.
I would highly agree with that. I mean, almost, and I'm sure most quality CPAs would say the same thing. You're better off going to
Yeah,
TurboTax and doing it versus having just somebody that does not like. The first CPA that I had was somebody like I probably should have just done it myself. And so that being said, I think again, I don't think becoming a realtor isn't hard, which also makes it easy for anybody to get in. But I think, if a professional realtor who does this for a living has a lot of experience, does a lot of business, they're going to more than pay for themselves.
yeah.
And even, dude, there's in Orange County 2 years ago, there was a $65 million house that sold, and
Hmm.
each side had their own realtor. 65 million on one home, and that happens all the time on high price listings, that
Yep.
there's two realtors involved. And it also does happen where they use one realtor, the listing agent. That does happen. But is to me, seeing this, does this mean writings on the wall? I don't think so yet, because it's a very expensive and complicated transaction.
Yeah.
If this was $50,000 or something like that, yes,
Hmm.
buying a Tesla online, you are way better than doing that than going to the car dealership, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't
Agree.
need a sales agent at the dealership to sell me a car.
Right.
I don't need that.
They're there to screw you over and throw in a bunch of add-ons and
Right.
guilt
Right.
trip you into
Keep
not
you there
doing
for
that.
3 hours.
Yeah.
That should, I hope, just like the travel industry, that happens with car sales, because it's just a annoying process.
Hmm.
And then also, just like that, having a bad realtor is
But what
has
is,
that.
I know the listing agent does a lot, but the buyer's agent, I mean, do you really need someone to walk you through a house and tell you like how nice the walls are? You can do
No,
that yourself.
you can do that yourself, but you make a great question. What does a consumer use a buyer agent for?
Yeah.
A consumer does not use a buyer agent to show them property, right? Or even look on the MLS. Like my 3-year-old can look at homes on Zillow by
Yeah.
himself. right?
Yeah.
Like that's not complicated. It's not complicated to find one that you like on Zillow. That's not complicated at all. But what is complicated is all of the legal disclosures,
Mm-hmm.
negotiating repairs, negotiating the price,
Mm-hmm.
coordinating with the lender and escrow and the appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
and all. Again, the bottom line is making sure you have a quality home, that a seller isn't hiding anything from you,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting the best price and terms possible, and so that's what
Gotcha.
a consumer uses a realtor today for. It's not for finding homes. that's
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 true.
uh
That's true.
that's they only use that before internet, is that a realtor would help you find a home. It's that's nothing that we do now. We do not
Right.
we do so much stuff on the other side. So yeah.
Didn't we find the house, Chris, that we didn't buy in Plano? And the realtor, our buyer agent, she was like, "Oh, this the kind of stuff happens all the time in Texas." And then I ran that through my brother-in-law, who's like he's a head of like a home building group here in Phoenix, and he was like, "Oh, dude, that's super expensive. That's not like some trivial matter, remember?" And then he turned
Hmm.
us away from that. And then
Yep.
when we brought that up to her, she was like, "Oh, yeah, it could be a lot." Like she
Oh,
didn't really do
Eh,
in her
oh,
power,
interesting.
unless she just didn't know like the cost. She then tried to act like she's not
Oh,
aware because she's not a contractor. They
oh,
always like kind of
I
sure.
see.
blame someone else, but I mean, maybe that's true. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, there's a lot here to unpack, but maybe another thing we're not considering as we wrap up is the future of real estate. I know it's like out of left field, guys, because you said many, many decades from now, which I don't know if we have that many decades from now, but virtual reality, I know it sounds sci fi now. I think 10 years, people don't care as much about their view because we're going to get used to living. Like, I know 5-year olds now, most of their time at home after school is on the Oculus. They're going to
Yeah,
grow up and be 18-year olds. They're going to grow up and be first time home buyers. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
just like our phone is like part of our body, I think
Right.
these headsets, especially as they get
Mm,
sleeker and like they become sunglasses, I think I think views and like actual like prime real estate doesn't matter as much
hmm.
if you have
Well,
virtual reality. Yeah,
i- if that were to transpire, there you lose literally all need for the buyer agent because really,
yeah,
I'm saying because you guys are just doing all the talking, which is fine. But I'm sitting here thinking, why do you really need a buyer's agent? The only thing I could think of,
because it's free. Because you don't
no,
pay for it.
no, but you do indirectly. The only reason you need a buyer's agent is because I, as a home seller, if I were selling my home, would not feel comfortable as you, as a stranger, just willy nilly coming in my house without supervision, right? Just anybody can go in your house without supervision.
Right.
So really, they're babysitters. No, and I mean no offense, Joey, but I mean technically, really, that's what they are. And
Yeah.
if you have if where you can just view the house entirely as though you're there yourself, but not physically be there, so I don't have to worry about you going through my stuff or
Oh, that's coming. That's coming.
yeah, I don't
Well,
think you need a
that
buyer's
actually
agent.
already happens.
Well, I
That
mean,
already
you
happens.
you you
Yeah.
know you can go to
FaceTime.
Zillow and do a 3D view of the house or whatever,
Yeah, that
walk
already
around,
happens with
but
what's that called?
that's
FlexMart
not
or something?
that's not the same thing,
Matterport.
though.
Matterport.
It's not the same thing, and there's oftentimes things that are missing that you'd like to be able to look at, so you still have to go to the house.
Right, you still gotta go, but that's current. I mean,
That's going to be the same even with the goggles.
you give it decades from now. My point with the
Yeah,
goggles is like me as a buyer. Forget about the house I want to see virtually. Of course, I already know that's a
Right.
given.
You
I'm
guys are talking
talking
about two
about
different things. Yes.
where I actually want to live 30
Right.
years from now. Like, I'm not gonna care what it looks like outside. I'm gonna be on my freaking
oh,
thing all day.
so living in Alaska will be the same as living on the beach in California.
Maybe if you never leave the house, yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to eventually go outside, so I don't think they're gonna be similar. But I mean, your house with a view, half the realtor shit right now, a stunning view,
Right.
all
Yes.
this stuff. Like you pay top dollar for a better view. I don't think
Right.
that stuff matters as much with VR in the future.
Hmm.
Mm,
I might be a little more pessimistic on that. I mean, I think, anything I guess could happen in 30 years or something like that.
Yeah,
But but I think, yeah, I guess you do make a good point. Little kids are on screens so
it's
much more than we
scary.
were growing
It's
up. That
scary.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
so
screens. They're
in
immersed in
20,
this
30
other
years, yeah,
dimension.
you make a good point, but at sometimes the goggles have to go off, right?
I don't
I think
know.
it's, and there are windows, but there's probably definitely a there's a portion of gamers that I could see just be completely right there with you, like their window is a screen and it
I
shows
think, man.
outside,
I only brought it up
but
because you said decades and decades from now.
yeah.
I actually think the realtors, maybe not all, but I think realtors are gonna be like, there's gonna be mega agents running AI tools, and then that's it. And they're gonna do
Hmm.
like eight figures, and there's gonna be a handful of them using tools to like help buyers and sellers find stuff, and then there's not gonna be as many realtors as we have today. That's for sure not gonna happen. But
I
I'm
could see
talking
that.
like even more decades from now, like 50 years, we're all gone maybe. People don't really care that much about their homes. Their
A
homes are
view.
totally different. Yeah.
You make a good point. I like to see that. I don't
I don't
know,
think we
but
will see it.
you
We'll be
know,
dead, but yeah,
well, which might prove my point that decades and
many
decades and
decades, yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
But Chris, you might have missed, what I said that today people don't use buyer agents to really show a house.
yeah.
That's a very low level like thing that a buyer agent does. Now they do that, but
Well, they have to.
I
How are you going to get in without a buyer's agent?
oh, open house. That
They
actually
give you
happens
the
quite a bit.
they tell
Yeah.
you the code for the
And dude,
lockbox.
Do they
I
do
have
that?
clients.
Do they do
Yeah.
that?
No.
I don't know.
Certain listings, yes. Certain
I don't think
listings,
I'd be comfortable with that with my stuff in the house.
It's all up
right.
to the
Nor
seller.
nor
Like
would
the
I.
listing
Yeah.
agent would be like, "Hey, this buyer wants to come, but they don't. Their agent's not here. But do you mind if I give them the code?" It happened to me many times as a buyer. They're
If
like,
my
"Yeah,
house
here's the code."
if my
New
house is
construction.
empty, no problem.
No,
Right, right.
Yeah,
full house, but no
I
one there.
wouldn't be comfortable with
That
that.
happened to you, Dan? Interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet.
agent
Wow.
like, here's the code. No, the seller's not home right now, but they have
Wow.
said that people can go in if they want, and here's the code.
Dude.
Just put the key back.
Wow.
You went in this house without
Yeah.
a agent accompanying you.
Dora felt weird about it. I did not, because you guys know
It was
how I
probably
roll.
more convenient for you. Yeah, in your sense, being seasoned, it's probably more convenient. But
Yeah, yeah,
most sellers would not be. Yeah, I would say, I nor would I recommend that. For any,
probably not.
whether
For
you're living there or
safety.
not. Because somebody could come in and it's the what if. But anyways, but
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah, showing the home is a
they
very
can move
low.
in. They can move in. In California, they can move in and you can't kick them out. Squatters'
Yeah,
rights.
Nah, they got like what, 30 days? You gotta kick them out.
Yeah, 30
yeah,
days. Free
They're gonna
place
be
to
plus
there
plus
live.
30
plus.
minutes.
Those
But
laws would
I have
have
to
to
say, I
change.
am curious to see what happens with realtors. I hope less get in it. I would agree,
You're a
actually, Dan.
realtor hater.
No, I love realtors, but I wouldn't mind having more, better quality,
Yeah,
that I get to work with,
it
right?
probably
That would
make your
be,
job easier
it
too.
might make it a little bit easier, right? Then, I'm working a transaction right now, and this person it's just a very uphill battle, and
Hmm.
sometimes bad realtors can like it can cause a home not to sell actually, and this is about
Yeah.
to happen to me with one of my clients, unfortunately. So hopefully, yeah, it brings, maybe there's much less realtors doing the same volume and you're just doing a lot more, and I would be all for that.
Well, guys, thank you so much, everyone, for watching live. X is always popping, and then on Chris and Dan's show. Hopefully, enjoy this. Joey, a link to Joey's YouTube channel is underneath, so go connect with him and let us know what you guys think as well. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Chris. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.